let's give it a second for
Yeah.
people to kind of start to get in here. But yeah, should be a good one this Friday. Should be. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be a great one, but oh yeah,
I
you
think
know
Louisville's
what?
better than a lot of people are thinking. I think there should be a good test for Miami.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good test because it's kind of like it's enough of a trap game. Okay, we can start already. But like, welcome back to Primetime Live. Shay here and Jaden. Jaden, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's we had a nice little bye week, able to rest up, recover, had a great fall break, and I'm sure you as well, Shay. So we're right, all geared up, ready to go. Louisville on Friday, ready to go.
Yeah, Louisville on Friday. Hurricanes trying to stay. They did they move? Yeah, they're staying at 2. No big changes. Indiana
Nope.
had their big upset win over Oregon. Hasn't really shaken up the top 25 though. But Hurricanes are going to try and carry the momentum into this next week. Louisville on the clock. Yep, let's go. No,
Yeah.
we're not gonna sleep on them at all this week.
No.
But yeah, trying to keep the 5-0 feeling alive and staying. Louisville is on the clock this Friday. Jaden, I guess we'll just jump into it. How do you feel about where Miami is and where they're going to go? I
I'm
mean, hosting Louisville.
where they are. I mentioned this on last week and on Thursday's show. We probably the you couldn't have asked for a better start. 5-0. Everything looks as good as we're saying. Number 2 in the nation. The offense hasn't taken that much of a step back. The defense has taken a gigantic step forward. You can't really look at any weakness in this team right now. They have the best currently, what feels like the best offensive and defensive line in the country. 2 players who are competing for the Heisman between Beck and Bain. An extremely awesome receiver room that we didn't expect to be awesome right away. A quarterback who coming off an awful year and an injury has looked the part. From everything that I can say from Miami, they have looked the part of the number 2 team in the country, and they've gotten all the tough games out of the way. They've proven it on the field. They've proven it in every aspect. The media's given them the attention that is absolutely deserved. I can't help but say that this is a really awesome start to the year. And I think Louisville's a tough test. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're necessarily a bad team. Last year was a slugfest. This year, different team on both sides. But I think it's another good test for Miami to kind of see where they are within the ACC. I think Louisville will end up finishing as one of those mid-level ACC teams as when we finish, the season.
100%. Louisville's not a team that you can just take, sleep on lightly. They're very solid. 4-1 so far. Played a close game against a Virginia team that took down FSU just a week prior, and they're not a team you're definitely going to just overlook and assume you're going to win. And it's
Yeah.
not like you're playing bottom of the barrel in the ACC right now, like Virginia Tech or UNC
Yeah.
necessarily. We're like they're that far down, but Louisville's 4-1. They've played some strong games. They've matched up very well against other teams in the ACC so far, and you gotta definitely keep more than an eye on them because they have some playmakers. We'll get into a little bit more, but especially on the especially connection between Miller Moss and Chris Bell so far is definitely something Miami has to keep an eye on because let them get rolling, get some explosive plays going, and it could definitely be dangerous for Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have talent, they have tools. They have a couple guys that are returning that kind of beat us last year. They have their offense honestly is one of the better ones in the conference. Their defense to me, I don't know, and their offensive line is the other thing. But looking at their schedule, they played tough against JMU, a very solid G5 team who they ended up beating. They were down for most of that game. They had to come back. They had to come back against Pitt, had to come back against UVA, and then they lost to UVA in overtime. UVA is a very good team. I think Pitt's a very solid team. Not any, I'm looking at them and saying that these are respectable games that they've won and lost. So just from that standpoint, I think that they are a quality team, a quality opponent for Miami to kind of look at. And it's a game that on Friday you can't really sleep past. You can't. They kind of have to go with that same mentality for Miami that they've been harping on for the over the course of the season, that kind of 1-0 mentality and also playing to their level. And I think the number one thing that I'm kind of looking at is if Miami kind of jumps out to another lead, which they've done over the course of the first 5 games. Can you hold on to that lead, and can you make sure that this game is out of reach at a certain spot so you're not saying what's happening again, right? Where FSU, you give up in the fourth quarter or in the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter when you're up 28-3 and you let them go 19-0 in the fourth quarter. Or Notre Dame, where you could have a chance to make it a 3-score lead Instead, you go 4 and out 4 straight times, or 3 and out 4 straight times, and it costs you, almost lost you that game. You let UF kind of stay in that game. Those are 3 games right away that you're saying they didn't really put them away. It could absolutely haunt them and kind of bite them as we see later on in the year. And this could be a game that we see that. So that's my main concern for Miami. But this is a team that on paper Miami should absolutely beat.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even on paper, yeah, Louisville is a scary team given the fact that like think back to that Syracuse team. It's a different squad entirely. But last year, Syracuse got going because that passing game got going, and then you know it just steamrolled on a very weak Miami secondary. Miami secondary hasn't been fully tested yet in terms of a team that's going to really you know air out the football fully. Louisville really loves to pass the ball. You look at Miller Moss's last 2 games, 48 and 51 pass attempts in his last 2 games against ACC competition. But where Miami can really prove themselves here is if they can force him into some turnovers between his last year at USC and so far in Louisville. He has 13 interceptions in 14 games. 9 games with interceptions, 3 of which were multiple interception games. So Miami can really capitalize off of his mistakes if they can, if they can pressure him, get to him. For the most part, he's a pocket passer. He can move a little bit, but he's not necessarily going to wow you with any athleticism fully outside of the pocket. So if Miami can get pressure on him consistently, which they've been able to get pressure on pretty much every QB this year, they can force him into some turnovers because he can be pretty turnover prone. Going back to when he played Heatherman last year in Minnesota, he threw 2 interceptions, both of which, I mean, it's not necessarily, they weren't awful interceptions, I'd say. One of which was he was trying to throw the ball got tipped because a pass rusher came around the outside and it landed in a linebacker's arms. The other one, I think he forced it. He had time. Time was going down, but he kind of forced it up the seam into triple coverage. It was a bad decision, but it was with like 15 seconds left. Could have gone for the first down, decided to air it out. And yeah, so it led to an interception there. So it's definitely a place where Miami can definitely benefit off defense and prove themselves against a team that's going to air out the football, the secondary, and more importantly, this defensive line, which you can get into them a little bit more.
Yeah, I will say it's nice that Heatherman has faced Miller Moss, and we can see what we're looking at. And also last year from Louisville when they played Miami, Tyler Shuck, their quarterback, threw 51 passes last year. We can probably expect something similar next week or on Friday. That's the number one thing for Miami that I'm looking at that they can really take advantage of is in the trenches. And Louisville's offensive line really struggled against Virginia. They gave up 5 sacks. I believe Miller Moss ended up finishing with minus 38 rushing yards.
Yeah, it was negative 38 rushing yards.
So
I was looking at the rushing stats that game, and it brought him down to like 1.9
yeah,
yards per carry. It was really
yeah.
bad.
So from that alone, bad. I mean, the fact that UVA got to Miller Moss 5 times, sacked them, kind of pressured them consistently in that aspect. That's a big help for Miami because Miami's defense is way better. Miami's defensive line, at least, is way better than Virginia. You can at least expect Bain and Mesidor, the 2 best players in the country on the defensive line right now, to do that. You can expect them to continue their extreme level of play with Bain basically leading the nation in pressures, with Mesidor, who's also leading it. Just an incredible defensive front that Miami has. It should easily be able to stop this Louisville, or at least can do their damage on the Louisville offensive line. That is, I believe, they've surrendered 10 sacks, 5 against Louisville, or 5 against UVA, and I think 2 or 3 against Pitt. So not great numbers right away, right away from that O-line. That's definitely somewhere that Miami will probably take advantage of. And then I would say for Louisville, remember they have a returning running back, Isaac Brown. He had a pretty good game against Miami last year, 9 rushes, 56 yards and a touchdown. I think did he not break off a touchdown run, I believe, in the game last year?
I feel like yes, at some point, he
I think
broke off. He broke off a run, but yeah, it's weird just because when you just talk about these games last year in any sense, just because the defense feels so much differently than it does between this year and
Yeah.
last year. But yeah, I mean, it's guys you got to keep an eye out for because they have burned Miami before. Well, I mean, the big feature of it all really, I think, is can Miami on the outside stop Chris Bell? That's
Yep.
the big question.
Oh, absolutely. This is the
You look
question.
at his last two games against AC competition between Pitt and UVA. It's huge numbers. I want to make sure I get these correct here. But
The guy is a dog. He's a
yeah,
legitimate talent, NFL ready talent. He's incredible. What are his numbers the last two games?
yeah, last two games against Pitt, 10 for 135 and a touchdown, and then against Virginia, 12 for 170 and two TDs. He's more of he's an X receiver, 6'2", 220. He can make his money after the catch as well. And most important, like him and Miller Moss seem to have a really good connection on those, trust plays where the outside fades, back shoulder, comeback stops, very good timing on those. So like him working on the outside can, it's gonna test Miami's cornerbacks. It's gonna test Miami's cornerbacks a lot over there. And yeah, so because it's not necessarily he's not necessarily gonna create so much separation all the time, but it might just be you have to keep your eye on the ball and play the ball really well because Miller Moss is gonna trust him to go and get it. So he's really good at tracking the ball, strong hands, and it's gonna be up to Miami's cornerbacks on the outside to kind of watch that ball when it's flying because he can make a play on it whenever.
Yeah, and if you look at Louisville's receivers from from that UVA game, so Bell at 170 yards. Chris Hughes was their number 2 guy with 36 yards, and then it was Jaleel Skinner with 35 and Nate Kariski with 31. That's an insane drop off from Chris Bell. If
Yeah,
Miami can contain or limit in any fashion Chris Bell and Miller Moss's connection, forcing Louisville to run the ball will be advantageous for Miami and will really help them overall in that game. But if they can limit that kind of connection the way that against FSU they limited the run on Castellanos. They stopped Castellanos from running the ball. Against USF, they stopped Byron Brown from running the ball. Against UF, they kind of stopped everything. For Louisville, I think this is one of the few times we're saying you got to stop the pass. You got to stop a
yeah.
really legitimate threat right there with Chris Bell. Other than Deuce Robinson, this is one of the best receivers we're going to be facing for the rest of the year. So he's a very talented player, great player that Miami has to be looking at. I'm excited to see what this defensive backroom looks like because you're right. I don't think they have been truly tested. I feel like they haven't looked. I haven't seen these.
I will say, for the most part, they did do a really good job on Deuce Robinson last game.
Okay.
And I mean, I think overall, the Miami defense dominated. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you came into the game, the big thing was like, Deuce Robinson gets loose downfield, he can be a massive threat, and Miami kept him in check. But I think so far, Chris Bell, NFL draft ready guy. People who are looking at him as one of the top receivers in this upcoming draft class. So definitely, it's the biggest test this receiver core really has had so
Yeah.
far, and they're definitely going to need to step up.
This is going to be something that whether it's probably this might be a job for OJ Frederick or Xavier Lucas to kind of step up in. Probably have to go double coverage at some point in this game on him because that is how much he's kind of looked at with Miller Moss. And if you kind of take that out and you force them to go to their number 2 and 3 guys, that benefits Miami as well. The run, Isaac Brown's a very good running back, but he had a great game last year. Miami's defense is much improved. Their defensive line is significantly better. I imagine that they're going to do a very good job against the run. And I think it's honestly going to come down to Miller Moss slinging the ball because it does feel like Louisville's got this kind of air raid kind of offense of I'm going to throw the ball as many times as possible, see what happens. Going to keep connecting with my top guy. And if Miami kind of takes that side of the field away, force Miller Moss into some tough plays back when he was at USC when he made some really dumb throws, made some bad decisions. We're definitely going to see that with Heatherman because Heatherman has seen him and he knows what he kind of does. I think it's a good matchup to look at for Miami, and I am very excited to see what this defensive back room does. I think it's something that it's one of the few questions that I don't think has been fully answered. I think we've seen
Yeah,
good stuff out of it, but I'm not sure it's been like 100% answered. This is an incredible defensive back room. I feel like we haven't been able to answer that question yet.
yeah, it's really the one big question I think we just need to see a little bit more of, just
Yeah,
because Notre Dame in week one they don't necessarily have a big threat on the perimeter for them.
they didn't
And
really build
it
a
was
game.
CJ Carr's first game, which he's looked solid since, but
Yep.
he also played pretty well in spots during that game. So it was, there's things for Miami's secondary to kind of. This is one of the games where and it's not necessarily you're not going to play a lot more great passing teams or teams who are going to throw the ball a bunch this season. So this is one of those games where you got to let's see it. Let's see you
Yeah.
fully lock down a team. And it's not necessarily like it's going to put all of our doubts away just because it's young. It's a lot of new pieces still, and we still want to see more from it. But Louisville is so far going to be your best test. And if you could force Miller Moss into some interceptions, some dumb throws, then you're going to prove yourself. It's a
Yeah.
big game against a big time receiver, and it's quarterbacks who's going to air the ball out. You got to prove yourself because on the opposite side of things, for the defensive line, this Louisville team really hasn't run the ball very well in the past 3 weeks. Very limited on the ground. So I mean, no, in terms of Isaac Brown's been their main guy, and he's had a big week 1 and week 2 against JMU and Western Kentucky. But the last few weeks, only 104 yards combined on the ground between the last 3 games. That Pitt game is kind of the big example of one. I think they got down. The run game was really bad against them. They had 10 total tackles for loss allowed against that Pitt team.
Mhm.
So it was really rough for him to get going. He had a little bit more success, but the thing is, Louisville likes to air the ball out. They threw 51 times against Virginia. He got like 13 carries, I believe. Solid clip, I think about 5 a carry. But this if you can make sure that run game just is non-existent, you make Louisville completely one-dimensional, then you're gonna have a lot better of a time when you could just like as he said, Miller Moss ain't gonna scramble around too much. It's gonna
Yeah.
be a feasting for Mesidor and Bain and David Blay and Justin Scott and yada yada. Like just kind of getting pressure on him if you just turn the team in one dimensional, which for big spurts of this year they have been.
Yeah, it's a Louisville run game that only averages about 115 yards per game, and you mentioned it that includes Western Kentucky and James Madison, who they just I mean majority of those runs came from that. So that's something that Miami can easily take advantage of. They don't have to kind of focus on the run game. If they focus then on the defense on the secondary, then the defensive line does their job. Things should work out pretty well for them. With the secondary, I will say that we have seen. I would say that it's been pleasant to watch Jacoby Thomas, Bryson
Yes,
Smith, and Zach Poyser. The safeties all
the
play there.
safety position. Yeah,
Corners, I would say for sure, are the ones that I'm looking at and saying, I want to see. I just want to see what we're really dealing with between Frederic, Xavier Lucas, Ethan O'Connor. I like Keontae Scott. I think as a nickel, he's been great.
he's
Um,
been phenomenal as a nickel. Yeah,
yeah, Damar Brown, like those guys. I want to see what they really look like against an air raid style offense and a passing first team. Remember last year, which I don't even want to talk about it. Tyler Shuck threw the ball 51 times and he had 400 plus yards. Now that was against Frederic and Jaden Davis, bad players in Lance Guidry's awful system. So it didn't work.
mm,
So you can't really look at that. But just saying, they did have 400 yards against Miami last year. That can't happen this year. Louisville averages over 300 yards, I believe, in the passing game. That can't happen. Miami has to contain that. You can, get them under a certain amount. If you can get them to like 200 yards and under 100 in the run game, the offense should be able to carry their weight and do what they've been able to do over the course of the season against Louisville defense that I wouldn't call premier. That's not the first word that comes out of my mouth when I think of Louisville's defense.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, you look at what that defense has done the last couple of weeks against ACC teams, Power Four teams. It's been okay in spurts, but enough to help you come back against Pitt, and enough to keep you in the game against Virginia. But it's nothing, you're gonna be in awe about. It's about a middle of the road defense. They have some players 100%. It's not like anything you can take lightly, but
Mm-hmm.
Miami, as they've made their money in the trenches. I expect Miami's going to start the game trying to get this run game going, which there was a really good quote from Shannon Dawson where it's like the run game wasn't necessarily like bad last week, which it kind of was, but like it was more just like they were daring us to throw, putting their corners in one-on-one coverage and saying, "Can you cover?" And like Shannon Dawson said, they cannot really cover.
Great quote. Awesome
So
quote.
awesome quote. Like it was, but yeah, I mean, this is the benefit of what this Miami team looks like this year. Um, just so versatile offensively. It's just whatever you think you can take away, good. We're going to go to something else. Whether it's different players you're going to take away for the game, we're going to go to something new this week. Whether it's the run or the passing game, well, we're going to go to this week, depending on it. But I mean, I think Miami's going to they make their bread and butter really is this run game, leaning on this offensive line and telling them to go bully people around. And I don't expect that to be any different in this Louisville game, in
No.
all honesty. So yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely. There's no reason that Miami shouldn't dominate the trenches yet again. And the number one thing you can do is dominate the trenches, hold on to the ball, do what you need to do, kind of control the clock. When, you think about it, when we talk about how Miami's able to win in different ways, great teams are able to do that. So 2 weeks ago against UF, you run the ball for 196 yards between Marty Brown and Mark Fletcher. Passing game is non-existent. All right, week after you go to or the game after FSU, they isolate the run. Shandus says we're going to throw the ball. They threw the hell out of the ball. Malachi Tony and CJ Daniels had great games. They basically dominated FSU in the passing game all game long. They can win on any facet. You take one aspect out, Miami's able to dominate you on the other aspect. They have different ways of winning these games, and that should continue. I have no reason to believe it won't, especially coming off a bye. You have a full, all this time to prepare and get ready for this game. You should be fully healthy overall. There shouldn't be really any injuries. I mean, they mentioned it that JoJo Trader's fully healthy, ready to go. Jordan Lyle's been healthy. They're
Yeah, we
ready
got to
to
see a
go.
little bit of him last week
Yeah,
finally. So yeah, I
I
think Miami being just. Oh yeah, you continue.
no, I just think that they have. There's no reason if we're gonna say like, oh, how would Miami lose this game? I'm trying to find reasons that they would lose this game other than like an awful Beck game or Chris Bell
Hmm.
goes off. Like other than those two things, I can't really think of a way that Miami just gets they just get dominated. It's a home game, 7 p.m. Crowd should be great on a Friday night. Like there's no reason that you look at this game and say that Miami's gonna lose in bad, in terrible fashion or something like that.
Yeah, it's I don't- 100%. I don't. There's nothing really like unless this secondary. I mean, the corners. We want to specify like I
Yeah,
love what Bryce Fitzgerald, Zacharias Poyser, Jacoby Thomas have done this year, but like I want to see how the corners match up individually against this Louisville team. But yeah, like unless they get really burnt one this week, like I doubt like there's not. I don't see too much of a risk for an upset necessarily. That's just in my opinion.
yeah,
Definitely possible, just because if that pass game gets going, things work out. This Louisville offensive line is able to neutralize Bain and Mesidor, then like maybe there's definitely a chance. It's also college football. Like,
yeah, of
would we
course,
have seen Pitt being able to go and beat FSU this weekend? I don't
yeah,
think any of us would have predicted that. Like with I think true freshman QB, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Like that, it's possible, and that's why. But more than anything, this Miami team needs to continue just to say it's a different team. This team is different than it's been in previous years, where we're not going to let the trap game. Like if this, I think so far in terms of trap games, maybe USF just because, but they were actually like very they were top 25 team. But so I think potential trap games, maybe this is
yeah,
probably the closest in terms of you think you're a lot better than an opponent and they're not ranked, they're nowhere, they're not a rival. And so you might slip up thinking, letting that go. But I think just the mentality of this Miami team this year is just very
yeah,
much what's in front of us. And we're not going to let it, we're not going to just skip to the next week because there's something more important ahead of us. It's just been
yeah.
very much, we're going to come in, do business, and we're gonna walk out with a W. And
I
I
will say if there is one thing I could see Louisville winning on, it would be a collapse from Miami in terms of I just mentioned it of Miami kind of needing to get out of their own way. If you have a lead, hold on to it, kind of dominate it and push them to the point where this game's over. I say that because there are 3 Louisville games you can look at already this season and say this team came back from something. They were down. They were tied with JMU through 3 quarters, and then broke away in the fourth against Pitt. They were down, I believe, 17 through 2 quarters, and then Pitt just kind of let them back in the game, and they won that game by 7. UVA, they're down 10 entering the fourth quarter, and they put up 10 in the fourth to send the game to overtime. That's 3 straight games of them making these bigger kind of moves to try to force themselves back into that game, and that they were able to do that in the third and fourth quarter. That's a sign of a team that can easily come back from good games from tough halves. So for Miami, if you have an amazing half, which Louisville seems to have to struggle in the first half, if Miami has another amazing first half, you have to put them away. I think that's like they have to get out of their own way. It's the number one thing I keep looking at with Miami is, can you get out of your own way? That's the one thing I just keep saying to myself.
Yeah, 100%. I think I agree. Like that's the little bit more that we've been wanting out of this team is just to fully put teams away. They did it, in all fairness to them, that 1 week against USF.
It is.
But outside of that, like you look at the UF game, the Notre Dame game, and then FSU a couple weeks ago now. Like it's more just from start to finish, just fully dominate a team.
Yeah.
Just go out there, show them that you're much better than them, and like don't take it like don't act like you're much better than going into it, but go in and show them. Prove to yourselves and prove to the opposition that we're a million times better than you. We're going to show it. We're more physical. We're more dominant. Every single thing that this Miami team has preached this season has been we're gonna out physical, dominant, and bully you until and they need to go in with that mentality and play with that mentality from start to finish.
Yeah.
Don't act like you're given anything, but play with that mentality of we're gonna dominate this game.
And that's got to be the thought for the rest of the season because, again, they're favored in every game rest of the way. And Mark Cristobal's record in November, December is 4-10 since becoming a Hurricane. Awful record. He has to figure that out. And I think he will, but it is something that you have to say that is a problem and that is something that needs to be different for Miami to – because the number one question that people that aren't Miami fans say, is this legit? Is this real? Can they sustain this against the rest of the ACC? And the answer should be yes, because on paper this team's amazing. But can they get out of their own way, or can they figure things out? When you look at the rest of their schedule, especially in November and December, their November-December schedule is SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Vatech, Pitt. I'm looking at that, and I'm seeing SMU, NC State, and Pitt are three. I guess you could call. I mean, SMU is a solid team on the road in Dallas. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
NC State's not bad. They're not.
And most importantly to note, it's Miami's first game out of the state.
Yes,
that's important to note.
Absolutely. So. Yep. Great point. NC State. I'm not crazy about NC State, but they're a decent opponent. And then Pitt, which I've been saying forever, it's going to be a trap game. I know it's going to be a tough game. Their last game of the year after 7 straight games. Miami has to kind of. I just think that's the one thing I just keep thinking, like, if Miami really wants to prove that they can be the national championship contender, to be within the mix of Ohio State, and I can't really say a third team, maybe other than Indiana. If you want to be in the mix with those teams, you have to kind of show out in the rest of the ACC. You have to kind of rewrite your narratives over the last few years within the Cristobal era. You have to rewrite that narrative. You have to fix those things, and you cannot let it, affect you. Again, last year's team was poised. Obviously, the issues we've mentioned ad nauseum, but they had a path. All they needed to do was go 2-1 in their last 3 games. 2-1, and you go to the ACC championship, and then you don't even do that. So it's just a thought that you as a Hurricane fan, you have to think about. Like it has to come up in your mind once. Like they really can't mess up an awesome start to the season, an awesome opportunity to really. I mean, this is the most open I've seen the college football playoff in years.
Oh, easily. I don't like Ohio State and like us, and then really no other team is, start to finish really.
Yeah, like I do like Indiana. I'm loving Mendoza. I think he's awesome. Yeah. Outside of them, like the SEC is they're all on the same level in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
They're all taking each other down. Like Bama is going to play Tennessee this week, and Tennessee has a legitimate shot to win that game. Georgia plays Ole Miss. And Georgia, Ole Miss is number 5. Ole Miss is they're right there. These teams, A&M could slip up in one of these games. The SEC is kind of just eating each other alive, cannibalism like. And then the Big Ten is kind of. I think Oregon's still very good. It's Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, and then it's like, what else am I kind of saying? Seeing here that I've never seen an SEC more open than this one, and the ACC. Miami's looking, obviously, as we keep mentioning. Georgia Tech is Georgia Tech. They're awesome.
Shout out to GG over here.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
Georgia Tech, it's what it's shaping up to be.
It is. It is. But I think, honestly, I'm pretty sure it's going to come down to their games against Duke, because Duke plays UVA, Duke plays Georgia Tech, and I think Duke plays one other team. Miami doesn't play Duke. But if they withstand those Duke games, should end up being Miami versus Georgia Tech, which will be cinema. and I'll be very nervous from start to finish because I do not want to
Yep.
watch. I do not want to watch that man ever again. I thought we were done with him. Thought we were done with him. I don't want to see. I don't want to
How
see
many
that
more
man.
years of eligibility is he?
This got to
This
be
is
his
last
last
year.
one. I swear he's been around forever. I think he has to be. He's a bad man.
Take a
He's a
look.
scare. He scares the hell out of
I
me.
mean, it's got to be. He's in his 6th year of college.
Oh, he's
If
gotta
Haynes
be.
King
He's
is
gotta
not,
be.
yeah,
Maybe Brent Key can go to some other conference. Maybe Penn State will take him.
yeah. So maybe, honestly,
Yeah, but you're right.
um,
This is the most open we've seen a college football playoff, and for Miami to kind of squander this would just be devastating. You have the quarterback right now who's playing at a Heisman Cal. He's the Heisman favorite currently. You have Bain, who's top five, top 10 in Heisman, with an elite defensive group right now in the Heisman system. The offensive line's playing to their best ability. Like they're healthy, they're talented, they're playing good football. I haven't said much about Mario to be like he's doing a bad job. I think Mario's done he's done a very good job. Heatherman and Dawson have been fantastic coordinators. I just like everything is kind of falling into place, and it would be very Miami of them to just kind of throw it all away in November and
yeah.
December.
I mean, 100%. But I don't. Everything that this team has shown so far gives me hope and faith that it won't,
Yeah,
fall apart like it has over at least our first 2 years, at least. When you look at the teams of previous, of at least since we've been here, and anytime we say Miami's back, it's like, oh, is it? And
yeah,
then you
yep.
get 2017 and Pitt, that happens. Then you lose the ACC championship, spirals all the way out of everything. So
2023,
yeah,
you beat Georgia Tech, or if you beat Georgia Tech, things are looking a lot different. You lose to Georgia
yeah,
Tech, now you lose. Was it they lost like 4 straight after that? And then last year, I mean, so the thing I keep thinking about last year is that you can't compare them because of just it felt like every game they were going to lose. It was just waiting for
yeah,
them.
exactly.
Like, when are
Where
you going to
mhm,
lose Virginia Tech? Are you going to lose the Cal? Are you going to lose any of these games like that you probably could have lost? And it's like they didn't, and then they did in November and December.
mhm,
This year's team has over every game has looked the part of the better team in every game. I think every time you watch a game, the first thing that you can say is, "Wow, they're dominating this team." I've said that after Notre Dame. I said that during Notre Dame. I said that after USF. I said that during UF, and I said that during FSU. So that wasn't the case last year at all. This year, you're saying every single week, like they're really dominating these guys. Can they put them away? Once you put them away, all right, this team they're damn good. So kind of just showing that every single year, every single week, kind of doing that. And this Friday against Louisville, my first thought is last year's Friday game, which was against Virginia Tech, just scares
mhm.
me. I don't think it's the same
Yeah,
thing.
but I think once again, like you just said right there, it's this team feels different because they haven't played with fire against
Yes,
teams that we think they're much better than.
yes,
Like, Notre Dame we thought was a great team going into the season, and since
yes,
falling 0-2, they played really good football. And Miami for most of it pretty much dominated a large stretch of that game. UF, it was a rivalry game. You think, oh,
the rain,
game
and
day was
they
here.
could have
You
had
think
another
could be
touchdown.
a letdown spot, and then you dominate them for large stretches of that game. FSU, same thing. It's like, well, it's the team. Like Miami has shown they're the better team by opening up these games, getting big leads. Even though
Yes,
you look at some parts, bits and pieces of it, like yes, obviously that FSU fourth quarter makes us worry, but in that stretch in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame makes us worry a little bit. But this team has not played with fire against teams that they're a lot better than
yep,
necessarily.
yep,
Like in game in like the USF game, that game was over by the second. That game was over by the second quarter. After the rain delay, that game Miami was off and running and gone. And then obviously, like I think Miami has shown the difference between these two teams, and that just has to continue as a trend rather than like, yeah, it's going to stay in our minds because we saw what happened last year, but just with how different this defense feels and how different this team feels, just comparing it, it feels a lot different, and so
yeah.
I'm a little less worried.
You're right.
But
You're
yeah,
absolutely right. And again, I felt like I was saying after these games, like we survived. It felt like we survived. I haven't said that. Maybe like FSU for like a minute, I said that, but for every game this season, I haven't said maybe Notre Dame. I haven't really felt like they've survived like more than Miami won. Like Miami won
Yeah,
last year.
like
I
even the
felt
Notre Dame game. Oh, continue. Yeah,
yeah, but no, you're right. You're right. But like last year, I felt like it was just survival every single week. Like coming out of these cardiac king kind of games of like true survival. This year, I mean, I don't feel that way. I just don't. And what were we gonna say about Notre Dame?
no, like even the Notre Dame game, like it's a very good team.
Yeah,
There's going to be stretches of the game where momentum swings. And Miami, even though they lost a little bit of momentum, they went down,
and
drove the football down the field, kicked the game-winning field goal, and it like as much as you say they survived, like they went out and won that game. Which
yes,
where like
against a
Virginia
better
Tech,
like
you're
a
down in
better, higher ranked, and was favored to win in that game.
yeah, exactly. Like it's the opening game of the season.
Yep.
You have a lot of moving parts. You have every real reason to go and lose that game, playing against the national champion runner-ups. And Miami went out and won that game. Where like you look at Cal. Cal was surviving because you were down 25
True
points
survival. True
in the fourth
survival.
quarter against a
Virginia
team that you
Tech.
should have been playing, not maybe not dominating, but playing at least stride for stride with last
Yep.
year. Even if the defense was struggling, like Miami should have been in that game, but they were down 20 something points, and then they
Yeah.
need to make a comeback. Virginia Tech, similar case. You're down a little bit, and you barely that one surviving because
True
if the
survival.
refs had the replay system had you know been had a
No,
different cup of
and
coffee
because you
that
know what's not,
day.
they're going to say that the call on the field is confirmed, and the call on the field was a touchdown. So for them to overturn that was just nuts. So that game was
Yeah,
true survival and true like basically being blessed by the refs on what was it? He was out of bounds. Not the point. But absolutely. And Duke, they came back from they were down early on Duke at half. They had to make another comeback, and then they outscored them by a billion. Even Louisville last year, just a dogfight. It was a shootout
dogfight.
that went back and forth. So yeah, you're right. I didn't feel as confident about that team last year as I do this year's team. This team just it does feel different. There's a different vibe and a different atmosphere within the
Mhm.
team. And I think I just need to see every week just proving that rather than me just thinking back to past years. And I think it's just more being scarred by it, like almost more
Yeah,
like trauma.
yeah,
That I have to look forward and just think this is a different team. This is a different just experience. Look at every single week and say, we got to win this game and not revert back to your old habits or what you saw in years past.
yeah, 100%. I think like don't revert back to your old habits. I mean, but I like this Miami team just needs to continue the trend of what's
Yeah.
going on this year, where you're going out and winning these games, not leaving it up to chance. And obviously, we'd love some stronger fourth quarters against great teams, but you got to. I mean, even against the smaller teams, you got to just make sure you go out and dominate the fourth quarters. And we won't really get to see what Miami does against a top tier opponent really until ACC championship season or playoffs or but so that's really when we'll see it next if Miami can go in and dominate a great team for four quarters. But for now, you have to go and dominate the teams that you think you're a lot better than.
One thing that does help, and I think we're going to look at this for the rest of the season with Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably makes the playoffs. We'll see what they do against USC this week. If
Yeah,
they beat USC, I think I'm all on the board of Notre Dame probably making the playoffs because the rest of their schedule is pretty light. So I think Notre Dame's going to make the playoffs. UF is a very quality opponent rivalry game, and UF is like I don't know, they knocked off they knocked off Texas. They have some other games they might knock off teams. So they have like that's another team that these are. I think people sometimes look at the records or look at these teams and like start downplaying them. These are some very good teams that Miami had beaten already. So we've proven it, and I think we've seen it. And now it's the rest of the season of like, all right, we have some much lighter and easier opponents. Keep the foot on the gas, keep going, making sure that kind of everything keeps going forward.
yeah, 100%. Just keep it going forward.
Yeah.
But I think hopping off, I didn't want to touch on this before we go. We do have some big news in college football this recently.
Oh,
James
oh,
Franklin fired, and Penn State's a big school. There's a lot of recruits who could be out there, could be out for Miami poaching. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that really fast.
It's weird because as much as I was on the board of them firing James Franklin, I thought it made total sense. He was dead after Oregon. They were waiting for years. Like, I felt like James Franklin had been planning for this Oregon game for like 3 to 4 months, and everything from this program was leading up to this Oregon game. And then for them to lose in double overtime, just heartbreaking. But I can't stop thinking that 16 days ago, James Franklin was like he was on game day. He was next to Nick Saban. He was chopping it up, and he was like just in his mind. Like, never in his mind did he think that 16 days later he would no longer coach this team, or that this team would be dead, essentially dead. That after and it could have been one change against Oregon that could have been anything. They could have won that game. But this is a guy that like I think he absolutely should have went. But when you're looking at it from like the guy was in the Orange Bowl last year. He was in the
It is crazy to think about, but at the same time, like,
look, he had to go. Like he was dead. He
yeah,
was never going to be able to get off the mat when you lose to UCLA and Northwestern right after that. But if he beat Oregon, if they did any, or if they lost to Oregon maybe in a different fashion, if they beat Oregon, just changes everything because then maybe they dominate UCLA and maybe they dominate Northwestern and Drew Allen maybe doesn't get hurt. And instead, just that one move is like it's over. Everything from like it's just a complete and utter disaster now at Penn State. And it's just like I can't even fathom where you are like 3 weeks ago versus now, where you're just saying got to beat Oregon to my season's over and we're entering into now a rebuild now if you're Penn State. It's like I can't even fathom that if I was a fan of them.
yeah. So this leads me to my next point. This was a fun conversation I had in my head, thinking about potential other coaches to be fired. Billy Napier, FSU. Sorry, why am I? Is
You
that FSU? Sorry, why am I blanking?
you talking about Billy?
No, oh no, mainly just Billy. You think
Oh,
about Billy Napier, and you think about just other teams who've had head coaches fired. It made me think about this whole discussion. Um, if Miami had to do another reclamation project next year, who would you want it to be?
oh,
DJ Lagway,
oh,
Drew Aller,
good question.
or Nico Yamaliov?
Ooh,
Which reclamation project would you take on next year if you're Miami?
okay. Drew Aller. So I mean, Drew Aller is the prototypical like quarterback. The dude was a first round pick. He was going to go if he went to the NFL draft last year. I think he would have been a first round pick.
Oh,
Genuinely,
probably.
he
Yeah,
decided
especially
to go
last year's class.
to college, and now he's out for the season. And now he's got to go to another school and have to get another. I mean, that's a guy. I think it's him. Lagway's got all the potential and the tools. Little raw still. I think he's awesome as a player. Eventually, he will be. He showed that against Texas. I think. I think Aller. I think Aller. What about you?
Fair. I was thinking Aller too, just because like you draw the comparisons between Beck and Aller, and you could just picture it in
You
your
can
head.
absolutely see it. Yeah.
Quarterback who goes down for the season with a shoulder with season-ending shoulder like arm injury, and then he's going into the off season. He doesn't know where he's going. Picks Miami, comes back healthy. Young receivers could see it happening right now, or we just go Luke Nickel or Darion Coleman.
Of
Rock with
course.
that.
Yeah.
That also works. I just wanted to toss that out. It would also just be
I could
fun.
see them doing that. I could
I like look.
CJ
Nico's look.
Bailey kept getting thrown around, the NC State guy.
Ooh,
CJ
yeah,
Bailey.
that's another one. Cause he's flashed over in
Yeah.
over there.
They're like
Um,
I'm not opposed to anything for what Miami does next year. They could go with Aller. They can go with I'm not okay if they went Emery, unfortunately. I'm be intrigued if they went Luke Nickel because he would have to prove in a lot of stuff over the course of a camp to see what he looks like. But my guess is Miami's next quarterback would probably come from the portal. If I were to just take a guess,
yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to guess that just because
there's a
last
little bit
two
of
cover the
scoreboard.
portal.
Yeah,
I think just mercenaries might be the way to go. It kind of depends on the year. We were talking about earlier, like we looked at the beginning of this year, there was a lot of guys that teams were rocking with going into the year, and some of them hasn't really worked out. Look
yeah.
at look at what Miami's done last 2 years with just bringing transfers. It's worked out. You look at other teams, Indiana, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore is a transfer, right? Yeah, right. I'm not wrong. I'm not.
UCLA transfer.
Yeah, UCLA transfer, Dante Moore, like guys John Mateer, obviously,
Yeah.
big time transfers that really kind of led the way this season in the Heisman race,
Anyone
quarterback wise.
from North Texas, give me them. I'll say that because the guy, North Texas head coach, I forgot his name. He's the guy that recruited Cam Ward from Incarnate Word to Wazoo. He
Oh, you're
also
right.
then
Yeah,
recruited John Mateer to Wazoo, and then
yeah. I saw that during the game, their game
the
against
guy that
USF.
he's got at North Texas right now is that head coach in North Texas. The dude's balling. He's like a 0-star player from like he's incredible too. So whatever this guy produces, give me him. I'll take him.
Hmm.
I like this. It's a fun discussion. I'm intrigued by that as when we get into the off season.
Yeah, and we get to, maybe there's more. I don't think there's any other surprising ones that would come. Like I said, maybe Billy, but if Billy, yeah, Billy played. I mean, he played close against that A&M team last week.
I think Billy's dead. He's got to be dead.
He probably
I
is.
think the
He probably,
question would become who goes to Penn State. I believe Matt
yeah,
Rule is like the favorite right now. Uh,
really, yeah. I mean, I could see it,
I
but
saw Manny
he's.
Diaz's name pop up because I believe he coached there. Uh,
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm pretty sure most Penn State fans want Signetti. That would make sense.
Yeah, that's the name I heard, but like also like if Indiana's just as good as they are right now, I don't know
Yes.
why Signetti would up and leave
But
unless
when we're
Penn
talking about
State.
programs, Penn
Yeah,
State is a program as
no,
much
yeah, it's fair
as
enough,
a
fair
program.
enough. And in all fairness, if they had enough money to go and spend on a $50 million buyout, they probably got enough to go spend
And
on,
stadium renovations in the middle of it all. They're
yeah,
doing
in the middle of
stadiums,
stadium renovations. But
and
maybe they,
they're switching over to Adidas next year. So it's like everything is changing over there at Penn State. It's like
yeah,
their standards crazy. I understand it. It makes total sense to me. But when you're like I don't know, the guy won 10, he had 10 games, 10 wins last year. If he beat Ohio State last year, Ohio State may not even make the playoffs and things could look incredibly different in the way
yeah,
that like, that's just nuts how one move or one decision can change everything. I just can't stop thinking about the fact that 2 weeks ago he was on game day at Penn State for that game. He has just if he beats Oregon, there was a play they could have won for two, won the game. If they went for it and they didn't even get it, I think Penn State still looks positively at that game and at their season. Instead, that the thing you're thinking of is that Drew Aller pick in double overtime, and just James Franklin's basically dead. Like he's just dead because then they showed it against UCLA and then they showed it against Northwestern.
it
So
was, yeah. I just think obvious. It's just 4-18 record against what was it? Was it top five or top 25? I forget the
it was awful. It was like 1 in a billion against top 10 teams. So I get it.
top
I
10 teams. So it
he
was
couldn't win the
really,
big one,
really
and
bad.
he couldn't win the little one. So it was like, all right, he's got to go.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
it's just like the question that has always been asked is who do you replace him with? Because if you're looking for a guy that's like James Franklin's going to give you 10 wins, but he's not going to give you anything more than that. But he's also not going to give you anything less than that. So it's like, what kind of balance are we looking at here from what you want out of a coach? Like you want a guy that's going to give you 11, 12 wins, but you also don't want a coach that might give you 5 wins. Like look at Wisconsin when they fired their coach who was doing a decent job over there. They fire their coach, Luke Fickell takes over, and Wisconsin's a disaster of a program right now. Fickell's gone. They're in hell right now over there. Northwestern had that before, or not Northwestern. Nebraska had that before they hired Rule, where they fired a guy, and then it was a complete disaster for them before Rule came over there. So it's like these kind of
Yeah.
decisions, like if Penn State doesn't hire the right
Is
guy,
the grass greener on the other side? Is
yes,
always the question you got to ask.
that's exactly what I'm thinking. If
But at
they
the
don't
same
hire the
time,
right guy,
it's also like with the brand and with everything that Penn State kind of is trying to
yeah,
go for, it's do you stay where you are or do you take the big swing for the next thing? Like it's
it's fair. It's
that's like the balance you got to strike. Because
yeah.
do you feel like they were ever going to get over the hump with Franklin?
I don't
Is
think
the
so.
real question.
I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
if it wasn't going to be this year they had all the chips stacked in favor of them. They brought back both their big running back duo. Aller was healthy. They brought in some receiving help for him. Like it was, it was really just. Do you think that this was probably his best chance to do it? And then not only do you lose the game against Oregon, you're out of the playoff contention just because you lose back-to-back games against UCLA and Northwestern, two teams you're supposed to be dramatically better than.
Yeah, but they
So
lost on a game-winning field goal in the Orange Bowl. If they don't
Yeah,
lose
I mean, 100%.
one
Like, I mean,
game in the
things could be
second,
so much different
that
if
team looked like a national, like they were going to be in the Natty against Ohio State, and then they just weren't. And
yeah,
now,
Aller gets
yeah,
pressured, throws the pick, sets up a field goal, and then it's game over. And
and
then
now we're looking at
all
now
leads to
like
this.
Penn State's got to hire a new like I think if they make the Natty, imagine I don't think they could have fired him. I don't
No,
right.
no, I don't. If they had made the Natty, but at the same time, it's like every time he was in a position like that, that type of
Yes.
stuff
Oh
seemed to
yeah,
happen
look,
to him.
true choker, absolute choker. I just
Which,
fear for Penn State. Like you hire, say you hire Manny Diaz or Matt Rule, and in those 4 years, you're an average Big Ten school. It's like that's not good. Like that's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's the risk you're willing to take to move, to really reach the promised land. It reminds
yeah,
me of I don't know, the way the Steelers fans feel about Mike Tomlin.
yeah, Mike Tomlin. It's like, yeah, I guess it's very both Pennsylvania. It's like,
It feels very Mike Tomlin like.
are you satisfied with what's happening right now? And there's no guarantee that if you're Pittsburgh, that the other side is going to be better than 9-8 every season and losing in the first round. But at the
Mhm.
same time, maybe you take a swing on a guy, and then you start to actually move forward. So that's kind of the big question there. It'll be
Because
interesting to see.
if you're a fan of like I don't know Northwestern and you have James Franklin, you'd be ecstatic if you had James Franklin because you'd be like, I'm going to get 10 wins. The same way if you're a Jets fan like myself, if you hired Mike Tomlin and you say, "Wow, I got Mike Tomlin, I'm going to the playoffs." Like you're thinking like that's your logic. But for the teams like the Steelers and Penn State, their logic is we want a natty, we want to win it all. And this guy's not going to get us to it. He's going to get us somewhat close, but he's never going to get us to it. So it makes sense. In general, it makes sense. It's a tough buyout. Best job in the world, fired head coach. Nothing like it.
Yeah, best
Nothing like that
50
job.
million just to sit back at home.
Yep. Jimbo
So
Fisher, him, these guys. I mean, shout out Trent
end up
Dillon.
on TV with an extra paycheck at some
Yeah.
point.
I mean, $49 million to not coach. Just
Yeah.
fascinating. Incredible job every year.
And kind of wrapping it up on that, I did have one little thing. Miami could benefit off of this, other than, what we talk about, randomly talk about Drew Aller. Let's take a look. So I want to make sure that
While you pull it up, what's your score prediction for Friday? I know it's a little
oh,
early.
score prediction. Yeah, that's fair. Let me just add this to stage now that we have it. But yeah, some of the decommitments, as you can see right
Oh, from
here.
Penn
But
State.
Penn State, yeah, this one, I pulled up the wrong tab, but let me actually pull up the right one. While we do this, I'm going to actually pull up the right tab, and I'm going to say 41-24 is my
Okay,
guess.
I like that. I'm gonna go 31-17. I think they win by 2 scores. I think it's a good game for a little bit, and then Miami finally pulls through and pulls ahead.
Yeah, and speaking of which, this was the potential commit. Mainly
Oh,
2027 guys. We haven't gotten to the point where 2026 guys are fully like decommitting yet. But 5-star running back, Keeman Spell, 8 teams that have so far stood out to him since decommitting.
we're gonna see
2027 is number one running back. A bunch of Miami did definitely in the race for a guy like that. Which you look at Miami's running back situation right now, pretty good, and pretty good to go and show guys that you're going to play behind a phenomenal offensive line and you're going to have a lot of success here. So I just wanted to showcase that, show that there are potential guys maybe could come in and benefit off of this firing. And then you think about if Billy gets fired, think about all the Florida guys that
that
have
could.
committed there, who you can be like, look, we're the best team in Florida, want to hop ship. So things to think about.
That stuff will only help Miami. And we're going to see that domino effect pretty soon with everything else that comes out, especially also who wants that Penn State job, because there could be a guy that like wants it bad. Whoever goes there, they either go to Penn State or they just reopen their commitments and maybe Miami can scoop one of them up because that's how good that is the one thing you can look at Mario and say like he's damn good at doing that. He can recruit damn well.
Exactly. I mean, I was talking to somebody who was like he was out of high school this week. So one of my friends randomly said it, so I don't fully know if he
He was
was or
in
wasn't.
Palm Beach, I believe, I forgot his damn name, but he was in Palm Beach, I believe, over the weekend to watch a game, to watch a recruit. Like he's everywhere. The recruiting never stops for the guy.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's his best asset, and that's what it's gotten Miami to this point.
Yeah.
where like the recruiting has been at such an elite level to show guys the value of this program, where I think he can continue to do that as guys from Penn State, um, maybe Florida, like guys from there potentially if Billy gets fired, which he may or may not, they may just hang on and not bite the buyout for him. But still, like if you see those come down the pipeline, or just guys who see FSU, Florida State, those teams not playing as well, they decommit. Mario is phenomenal at recruiting, and I think he could definitely go and scoop some guys up and kind of take some ground. We were talking about in the offseason, make sure you secure the state of Florida.
Yeah.
That's how you make up some ground. As these teams don't play well, you continue to showcase yourself. Which is why this Louisville game, another once again, is it's important to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yep. They couldn't have said it better. That's how it makes total sense. And I want to end this on one thing. We can pivot to the NFL for a sec. I think this is a very good day for the Cam Ward supporters.
yes,
Brian
yes,
Callahan gone. Obviously, from a personal standpoint, I don't want to root for someone getting fired, but from a football standpoint, I'm very excited to watch what Cam Ward has with finally the ability to have a new coach. He was not good. I need someone to please help Cam Ward because he looked awful against Vegas on Sunday, and
yeah. He was.
I need
Yeah,
a
they need to go.
coach to help him out. I need Joe Brady. Give me some offensive mind that will help him out, please. I need to see that man succeed.
I was not very pleased by the immediate options I heard, where I forgot exactly where I saw it, but it included the name former Titans OC. Why am I blanking on it? Arthur Smith, and I was like, don't,
No, no,
please
no.
don't. I saw Arthur Smith's name get tossed around. I'm like, no, God, no, please.
Bring in someone young. You know what? Well, okay. I was gonna say Mike McDaniel, but I was gonna say hire Mike McDaniel as an OC.
Hmm.
Don't bring him in as a head coach. Bring in someone that's gonna make him better. That's gonna help him transform into like a court. Bring someone from the Ram staff. I don't care. Bring someone from McVay. Bring someone from
Yeah,
Shanahan.
I swear, if Josh McDaniels gets poached again from the Pats, I will cry
But
because
look, to me, when I look at McDaniels, I see a guy that will only succeed in the New England Patriots,
exactly. He
and
will
he will
only
suck
succeed
everywhere else.
he will only succeed in the New England area as an offense coordinator, nowhere else.
Nowhere
And he should
else.
stay that way. But if the Titans seem like a team that would go and hire him, and I would fear for Cam's career, just because no offense, McDaniels, love what he's done with Drake May. Not great as a head coach.
Terrible head coach.
And yeah, so I would fear if that was the case, for both reasons of us losing him and Cam gaining him.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think it's a good day for Cam Ward. I mean, he had the one quote which is funny as hell. He's like, "We ass," and yeah, like
like they were.
he's just straight up. This team is not very good,
Yeah.
and they have the quarterback. Oh, don't worry. You don't worry. We've already laughed at F. We actually didn't really laugh at FSU too
No,
much. But
well, I guess we could have mentioned the fact that they did lose to Pitt. Extremely embarrassing. Extremely
yes,
embarrassing to lose to Pitt. 3 straight ACC losses. It has been over 385 days since FSU has last won a conference game. They are like 1 in a billion in conference play. They suck. It is absolutely awesome to watch the demise of the Florida State Seminoles yet again. Mike Norvell might have to go. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Hate to see
yeah. That was the name I was trying to find earlier. In case
it.
somehow, I mean, I don't know. FSU seems like doesn't seem like a team that would,
It's
but
a lot of money that buyout is. That
yeah.
buyout's a lot of
Look,
money.
as much as we want to just toss around coach firings, yeah, those buyouts are a hefty
You
price.
hate to see it. UVA, Miami, and Pitt in back-to-back weeks. It's so devastating. Like you
Mhm.
really hate to see it for FSU, who was being told is the best team in the country after
Yeah, look,
one win against Bama. They figured out Gus Malzahn got figured out in seconds, and all FSU did was prepare for Bama and no one else. They did nothing else but
yeah,
prepare for Bama.
they
So
prepared for Bama, and in the last 3 weeks they have. Well, look, they took care of Kent State. They took care of Kent State.
they still average 500 yards a game on offense.
Yeah,
They beat Kent State. They beat East Texas A&M. Would you look at that? East Texas A&M. Wow. Wow, you hate to see it. You hate to see it for FSU.
So yeah, we probably should have done a little bit more of laughing
And
at
I mean,
FSU. That
you can't even clown UF. UF is a disaster. Like they're just. I mean,
yeah,
they have a bazooka of a schedule. Like every single week, they're going to play a
like
tough game. Like
UF has a reason to suck. UF has a reason to suck between the head coach and then just their brutal schedule. FSU, y'all, they don't have an
You
excuse.
can't look at
It's
they saw 3 weeks of the season right before UVA, and they said this team is going to the playoffs. They said I saw them say it. Everyone was saying it. This team is better than Miami. They said watch out for this game. Watch out for it all. And what I don't know what happened. I can't tell you. Something happened over there in Tallahassee. You just hate to see
it did yeah it is not going great for them. Um, but yeah, me
it.
look I mean it's a close race right now. It's a close race.
Yeah.
But it's just it's I think it's think about it like think about the head start is how much money these teams are gonna have to pay the head coaches. Like that's the amount of distance from like the finish line of how close you get, how bad you have to be in order to get fired.
Can't wait to watch 4-win FSU.
Norvell survived it. Norvell did survive a 2-10 season, so
Fair, fair. But imagine
he
4-win FSU versus 4-win UF on
oh
CW, the CW Classic.
oh my gosh yeah toss that 7:30 prime time on the CW. It'll
Put on
be
put it on Thanksgiving right during the 3 o'clock game. Just put it
oh yeah yeah
right there.
yeah. Yeah, they're just like in the middle of the day, nobody's gonna go and watch it.
Nope. Nope.
Just it's if there were first overall picks, I would call it Tank Bowl, but
Yeah.
yeah, there is not. It's just like whose recruits going to that game are gonna end up at Miami in a few weeks. That's really what that game's about. So yeah, the we did our weekly laughing at the rest of Florida.
Yeah.
Shout out to USF. USF
Really
second
good.
best team in
Yeah.
Florida right
Shout out
now.
Alex Golich. Hope he gets a nice little job after USF. Uh
Yeah.
yeah. The rest of the conference, or the rest of the state of Florida, eesh,
How's
disaster.
Bethune Cookman doing?
I don't can't be good.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
UCF is still decent, I think.
Oh yeah, UCF's okay. UCF is okay.
Anyone?
Let's
No, they just lost back-to-back weeks to Kansas and Kansas State.
do.
Oh, and Cincinnati. They've lost 3 straight. Not good vibes at UCF. USF
Bethune Cookman's 3-4, so never mind.
okay. FSU they just got UAB. It's got Trent Dilfer fired at UAB because they destroyed UAB last week. So there you go. There we go.
There you go. There, you know what? It probably goes Miami. It probably goes Miami, USF, UCF.
Yeah.
Um, I'll put Bethune at
FIU,
last. I'll give them enough respect.
FIU, FAU.
Now we're making it too difficult. There's too many teams to think about.
Yeah.
We got too many
Yeah.
in the mix.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to think about. FSU is whatever. Just think about Miami, USF, and then like a whole tier of just other Florida teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. But on that note, shout out to yeah, exactly. There we go, James. It is USF.
Yeah, it is.
On that note, it's been a pleasure as always. Shay here
Yes.
with Jaden. Miami. Jaden. Will you be back on Thursday?
I probably will be back on Thursday, 7 p.m. For the call-in show, and then next Monday we will be breaking down this Louisville game and getting ready for Stanford.
There you
So
go. So catch Jaden over there, and then like he said, we'll be back Monday to go break down this game.
yes.
And yeah. So hope you all have a great day. Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
guys. See you.
Later.